Dear listeners, settle beneath your covers as we journey to Paris in 1789, where a storm rages outside a quiet study. The air is thick with the scent of ink and candle wax, and Dr. Joseph Ignace Guillotine, a physician with a heart stirred by the Enlightenment, writes feverishly. In this age of reason, philosophers are questioning everything: kings, laws, even the nature of justice. But death, oh, death is cruelly unequal. Nobles face the sword, their end swift and dignified. Peasants, though, are hanged, burned, or broken on the wheel, their agony a public spectacle. Dr. Guillotine finds this barbaric. Why should one's birth dictate the pain of their final breath? His quill dances across parchment, proposing a machine, a device to deliver death fairly, quickly, without torment. Not a tool of cruelty, but of mercy, meant to make justice blind. He doesn't design it, but his name will soon cling to it like a shadow. Outside, thunder growls, and the world feels on the brink of change. As you close your eyes, picture that flickering candle, the scratch of the quill, and a man dreaming of a kinder death. What hope did he hold in that stormy moment? Let that thought carry you into the night. Tonight, we step into a bustling workshop in Paris, 1791, where the air hums with the scent of pine and molten iron. Here, two men labor to birth Dr. Guillotine's vision. Dr. Antoine Louis, a surgeon with a mind sharp as a scalpel, pores over sketches, calculating the perfect angle for a blade to slice cleanly. Beside him, Tobias Schmidt, a harpsichord maker whose hands once crafted music, now builds a machine of death. The guillotine, as it will be named, rises from the sawdust, a sturdy wooden frame, a heavy steel blade, and a mechanism so precise it promises to end life in a heartbeat. They test it on straw, then sheep, each thud of the blade a step toward progress. The workshop buzzes with purpose, but also unease. Outside, whispers spread among the onlookers. Is this machine a marvel of reason or a harbinger of horror? As Schmidt tightens a bolt and Louis adjusts the blade's edge, they believe they're crafting mercy. But history, dear listeners, has other plans. As you drift toward sleep, imagine that workshop, the flicker of lanterns, the weight of a blade not yet bloodied. What did they feel, those men, as they built the future? Let that question linger in the quiet. Gather close, dear listeners, as we enter the heart of the French Revolution, where Paris's Place de la Révolution throbs with life and death in 1793. The guillotine, born of compassion, has become the pulse of the reign of terror. Each morning, tumbrel carts rattle through the streets, their wooden wheels groaning under the weight of the condemned, nobles, priests, even revolutionaries turned traitors. The crowd is a living beast, shouting, laughing, their breath visible in the chilly air. Vendors hawk crusty loaves and sour wine, while women knit in the front rows, their needles clicking like a grim metronome. At the center stands the guillotine, its blade gleaming, its frame unyielding despite the blood that stains it. Prisoners climb the scaffold, wrists bound, eyes scanning the crowd for a fleeting moment of connection. The executioner, calm and methodical, gives the signal, and the blade falls. Thunk, a sound that hushes the square for a heartbeat before cheers erupt. Thousands fall in these bloody months, their heads gathered in baskets, their names whispered in fear. What was meant to equalize death has become a carnival of slaughter, a ritual that draws crowds like moths to a flame. As you lie in the quiet of your room, picture that chaotic square, the scent of sweat and bread, the pause before the blade's descent. What did it mean to watch justice become spectacle? Let that thought fade as you rest. Tonight, we pause at a moment frozen in history. October 16th, 1793, when Marie Antoinette, the fallen queen, faced the guillotine. Picture the Place de la Révolution, a vast square pulsing with the energy of a restless crowd. The queen, once adorned in silks and diamonds, now stands in a simple white dress, her hair cropped, her face etched with both fear and defiance. The tumbrel cart carried her through Paris's streets, where insults flew like arrows, yet she held her chin high, her eyes scanning the faces for a trace of mercy. As she climbed the scaffold, the guillotine towered above, its blade catching the dull light of a cloudy sky. The crowd was a storm. Some cursed her name, others stood silent, and artists' pencils scratched, capturing her final moments. Women knitted, their needles a steady rhythm beneath the chaos. Charles-Henri Sanson, the executioner, worked with quiet precision, binding her wrists, guiding her to the wooden board. She stepped on his foot by mistake and whispered, "Pardon me, sir, I meant not to do it." Her last words, polite even in death's shadow. The board tilted, her neck was clamped, and the blade fell in an instant. The crowd roared, but for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Marie Antoinette's head, once crowned, now rested in a basket, her story sealed by the guillotine's edge. As you close your eyes, imagine her standing there, facing the end with grace. What passed through her mind in that final second? Let that question linger as you drift. Dear listeners, we move now to the 19th century, where the guillotine, once the star of revolutionary chaos, became a tool of the state's cold machinery. The reign of terror has faded, but the guillotine endures under Napoleon's empire and the restored monarchy. No longer a public spectacle, it stands in prison courtyards, behind stone walls that muffle the world's noise. The air smells of damp stone and polished wood as the Sanson family, executioners for generations, prepare their work. Charles-Henri Sanson, who beheaded Marie Antoinette, has passed his trade to his son and his son after him, each keeping meticulous records, names, crimes, dates, inked with the precision of clerks. The guillotine itself becomes a traveler, loaded onto wagons and carried to rural towns, where villagers gather to witness its grim ballet. Its justice made visible, a reminder of the state's unyielding power. The Sansons are respected yet feared, their craft a strange blend of duty and dread. Each execution is a ritual, wrists bound, board tilted, blade released, all performed with mechanical calm. Yet even in this order, the guillotine carries a shadow, a memory of the terror it once unleashed. As you settle into your bed, picture that quiet courtyard, the scratch of a quill on a ledger, the weight of names written in ink. What did it mean to make death so routine? Let that thought fade into the night. Tonight, dear listeners, we stand at the edge of the scaffold, where the guillotine waits in the pale light of dawn. It's the 19th century, and the machine, once a public spectacle, now works in the quiet of prison courtyards. A prisoner, wrists bound with coarse rope, steps forward, their heart pounding loud enough to drown out the morning's silence. The crowd is small now, just officials, their faces stern, their breath visible in the chilly air. The guillotine looms, its wooden frame sturdy, its blade a cold promise of finality. The executioner, a man of few words, moves with practiced ease, guiding the prisoner to the inclined board. The wood creaks as it tilts, the prisoner's neck is clamped in a wooden vise, and the blade, 40 kilograms of angled steel, hangs above, held by a simple catch. The moment stretches, heavy with dread. The prisoner's eyes might dart to the sky, to the faces watching, or inward, to memories of a life soon ended. The executioner raises his hand, the catch releases, and the blade falls, thunk, in a fraction of a second. The crowd gasps, then falls silent. Was death instant? Some say the heads blinked, lips moved, as if the soul lingered. Science tells us consciousness fades in seconds, but in that era, whispers of speaking heads haunted the living. As you lie in the quiet, imagine that scaffold, the weight of that final moment, the sound of the blade's descent. What would you see in your last glance? Let that question slip away as you rest. Dear listeners, let us wander the streets of 19th century Paris, where the guillotine is no longer just a machine, but a shadow cast across the culture. The revolution is long over, but its blade lingers in the public's mind, woven into stories, art, and even children's toys. In bustling markets, vendors hawk pamphlets with lurid tales of executions, their pages illustrated with grim sketches of the guillotine at work. Tiny wooden models, blades sharp enough to cut paper, are sold as playthings, their clatter a chilling echo of the real thing. Theaters stage dramas of the revolution, their posters splashed with images of the people's blade. Writers like Victor Hugo penned novels haunted by its presence, while philosophers like Foucault later ponder its meaning. Does it dignify death or strip it bare? To revolutionaries, it was justice. To monarchists, anarchy. To the condemned, it was a stage where some gave defiant speeches, others quiet prayers, all striving to meet death with grace. The guillotine is more than steel and wood now. It's a symbol, a question mark over the soul of a nation. As you drift toward sleep, picture that market, the chatter of vendors, the weight of a toy guillotine in a child's hand. What does it mean when death becomes a story we tell ourselves? Let that thought fade into the night. Tonight, we step into the 20th century, where the guillotine story takes a quieter turn. It's 1939, and public executions are out of favor, deemed too barbaric for a modern world. The guillotine now works behind prison walls, its blade hidden from the crowds that once cheered it. In a stark courtyard, lit by a single electric bulb, the machine stands ready, its wood weathered but unyielding. A prisoner is led forward, their steps echoing on the stone. No jeering mob now, just a handful of officials, their faces drawn, their notebooks open to record the event. The executioner, a descendant of the Sanson family, moves with the same precision as his ancestors, binding wrists, tilting the board, releasing the blade. The act is over in seconds, but this time, a photographer lurks in the shadows, his camera capturing what will become one of the most haunting images of the era. The guillotine, once a public ritual, is now a private act, yet its shadow looms large. France is beginning to question the death penalty itself. Is it justice or cruelty? As you settle into your bed, imagine that dim courtyard, the click of the camera, the weight of a world turning away from spectacle. What does it mean to hide death from view? Let that question slip into the darkness. Dear listeners, we arrive at the guillotine's final chapter in 1977, when the world feels far removed from the revolution's fervor. France has changed, and the death penalty is under siege, debated in parliament and protested in the streets. Yet in a Marseille prison, the guillotine stands, a relic of another time. Its wood is worn, its blade no longer gleams, but it remains ready. Hamida Djandoubi, a man convicted of a brutal crime, is led through the concrete cell block, his steps heavy under the glare of fluorescent lights. Guards guide him to the scaffold, where the executioner waits, a man tasked with upholding a fading tradition. Outside, protesters chant, their signs demanding an end to capital punishment. The blade falls one last time, on September 10, 1977, and Djandoubi becomes the final person executed by guillotine in the Western world. 4 years later, in 1981, France abolishes the death penalty, and the guillotine is retired, sent to museums where it stands silent, a relic of reason turned horror. As you lie in the quiet, picture that prison, the clash of old and new, the weight of a final act. What does it mean to end a tradition of death? Let that thought carry you into the night. Tonight, dear listeners, we stand in the quiet of a modern museum, where the guillotine rests behind glass, its story finally at rest. Its wooden frame, once stained with blood, is now polished, its blade rusted but still sharp in memory. Visitors pause before it, their faces a mix of fascination and dread, reading plaques that tell of its birth in mercy, its role in terror, and its long shadow across history. Nearby, books by Victor Hugo and Michel Foucault speak of its meaning. Justice or brutality, equality or horror. A child's toy guillotine, small and eerie, sits in a case, a reminder of how deeply it burrowed into the human imagination. The guillotine began as a dream of fairness, a machine to make death equal, but it became a symbol of cold precision, a question mark over the nature of justice. Did it humanize death or strip it of dignity? Did it serve the people or the state? These questions linger, even now, as the blade lies still. As you drift toward sleep, picture that museum, the soft glow of lights, the weight of a machine that once carried the hopes and fears of a nation. What would you feel standing before it? What would you remember in your final moment if the blade were above you? Let those questions fade into the shadows, dear listeners, and rest now in the quiet of the night. Good night.